What is going on, guys? Jack here, and welcome back to episode 20 of our Sochaux Montbéliard Let's Play here in Football Manager 2018, and today it's the end of Season 2 review. Yes, today I want to talk about the plans going forward, where I see us strengthening, what my aims are for next season, a little bit of a look back, I guess, to this season as well. Of course, if you missed last episode, it was the episode in which we sealed our fate in the league, which of course was to win it, and win it with really emphatically. It was a great win. You can see here we ended up on 86 points, which is a joint record kind of top points total for this division. So we walked the division really, and I think there's one man to thank for that. And well, you can see him here. It's Decas. He was just in a whole league of his own this year. The 18-year-old, of course, we signed him from Bastia. Bastia in real life, a club who really have struggled financially. In real life, I think they got demoted down to the 5th division. We picked him up as a player in their academy, and he has just been on fire so far. You can see he's making a name for himself in the under-21s. And he's just in a class of his own. 39 goals in 33 league games. I'm looking at his 15 leadership, thinking, man, he'd be such a good captain to have in the future. There has been some interest in him, although you can see at the moment, at the end of May, we are still without any kind of massive interest in the summer. That does leave me a little bit concerned, but you can see here, we are one of his favourite personnel. He does really like the club as well. But I'm a little bit concerned about his media handling style, because it is confrontational, it is kind of quite out there. And if we do have clubs come in for him and he gets unsettled, that might develop into a problem. But, well, I'm trying to be positive here. He's been great this year. He is the difference maker. Just to look at how we ended the season. Last time you were here, of course, we beat Lens, if I'm not mistaken, to win the league. Since then, 3 draws, 2 wins, fairly good. You know, we were kind of on the beach, let's be honest. I'm not going to go through these games, but when you know that you're promoted, I feel like your whole mindset changes with things. Anyway, you can see here, in terms of the season review, we were expected to make much of the league and get promotion, and well, we ended up finishing top of the pile, which was great. The board expectation was to reach the playoffs. I felt like off the back of last year, where of course we missed out on automatic promotion by goal difference, the bar was set high in terms of expectations this year. And I feel like the players we brought in made a real difference. Of course, in the cup competitions, in the French Cup, very disappointing to get knocked out in the 7th round. In the Coupe de la Ligue, it was exciting. Getting to the semi-final and, well, losing to Bordeaux was a bit of an experience. The way that we lost to Bordeaux was a little bit disappointing, but just to be there was superb. Of course, that win against Lyon, probably the standout moment so far of this entire series. If you did miss that episode, I do recommend going back and watch it. You can see our match of the season was a 4-1 win. We did lose to Clermont 3-1. That was the moment to forget. If I remember correctly, we conceded 3 set pieces in that game. It wasn't great. In terms of average attendance, only 10,000 fans, 54% full. Be interesting to see actually next year with us getting promoted, how many kind of glory supporters return to the club. I'd like to think that we might be able to sell out the 20,000-seater stadium, although maybe that's being a little ambitious. In terms of squad dynamics, we came into the start of the season without a leader, which was a concern. You can see since then, Mark Ristel and Panna have emerged as kind of top dogs. Ristel is good. The 22-year-old German has played, 23 league games this year, so about half our matches, maybe slightly more. I do, however, have concerns over if he's going to be good enough next year in Ligue 1. As a result, whilst he is kind of in the captaincy kind of ring at the moment as one of our players, he does take the armband from time to time. He might find himself knocked down the pecking order next year. I already mentioned, about Decas with 15 leadership. Panna as well. Panna's not a natural leader by any means, 8 leadership, but he is one of the more senior players in our side. Of course, he's been here now 2 years, so he's kind of made a name for himself, and particularly over the last 12 months, with us getting rid of some of the more established players in our team, naturally he is just kind of, I guess, grown up the dog pile. It's also good to see within the highly influential players, a lot of the youngsters who we've given chances to, players like Fuchs, Ruiz, Privot, even Trincao to an extent, a player who, of course, we had some big offers for in January. We've kept hold of him. It's going to be tricky, I think, next year to continue to keep hold of him. But, we are going to do our utmost. You can see here he's got a long deal, 5 years, and it does have an optional 2-year extension. If I'm not mistaken, was this a new contract that I got him to sign? I can't even remember. I feel like I offered him a contract, if not in January, more recently than that. But, we've got him tied down for his best years, which is really, really exciting. But, just across the board, in terms of hierarchy, things are going well. There's no players unhappy at the club. Thomas Carrick wants to leave for first team football. I will probably end up selling him, to be honest. Of course, a player we brought in on a free last year. He just really hasn't done a whole lot for us since he came in. Anyway, in terms of the end of season meeting, in terms of what I want to tell the players, I'm going to tell the players that I think we can step comfortably, and that is a good look at that, everyone loves me, excellent. In terms of the end of season review, you can see here the board are very happy with the leadership, and they're pleased with the number of young players we've been given opportunities to. And I think that is something that's definitely worth noting is here, we have such a young side. You know, and Benz is 23, Panner is 27, but everyone else is 21 or younger. It's going to be interesting this summer, because I actually quite like the team that we've got. In terms of what I expect next year, I'd love to aim for a top half finish. If we could challenge for Europe, that would be, you know, the top ends of my estimates. I feel like the French league as a whole, like the middle of the pack teams, are all kind of fairly similar in quality, and I'm hoping that we can, well, give them a good run for their money. You know, you look at this team, it's a young team. I do have a little bit of a concern that between Lacroix and Ruiz, we lack speed in the centre-back area, so I might look to get a new centre-back. We do have Diarra, who can play centre-back and is a good centre-back, and to be honest, maybe I should be giving him a little bit more first-team football, because if we just compare him to Lacroix, you can see the difference there. But yeah, I feel like, obviously, going up a league, we might have to change our play style slightly, be a little bit more conservative, look for counters a little bit more often. But at the same time, I don't want to deviate from what we've been building here. I do want to keep faith in these youngsters. In terms of the money that we've got, I was looking at this earlier, so the transfer budget's been set at 7 million for next year, and you can see the wage budget, 50,000 spare. However, and I'm glad I've remembered this, because I saw it earlier, and I was like, I'll do that in the live episode. We do have Leroy here with his sell-on clause. It'll be interesting to see if we can maybe look to sell this on. We've got a few other deal clauses that we can look at, but yeah, I'm kind of hoping this comes up for sale. I don't know how much it would give us, but we'll have to keep an eye on that. I feel like with the clauses in general, you know, sometimes you can get quite nice little sell-ons, and with Leroy, obviously, we sold him. A few people mentioned they think I sold him cheap. I'm kind of inclined to agree. I think 3.8 million was kind. But I'm hoping that, well, either we can cash in on him sooner, or maybe we do have to look towards some of our other younger players in terms of to see what we can maybe recoup for them. In terms of injuries, you can see here that we've had a few players out with kind of minor kind of injuries here and there. There's not really been that many long-term injuries. Lamboli was perhaps the player out for the longest with 3 months, but generally speaking, you know, it's not been too bad in terms of injuries this year. We've avoided them again. I feel like during the beta of FM18, injuries were really high. They've tweaked the numbers there, and they're almost a bit too low right now. I know people are going to disagree with me on that. Just to me, the injuries just seem low in Football Manager this year. In terms of training summary, you can see lots of players improving a lot. Pendant has been really the surprise package here. A player who was in our reserves when we first came in. We've given him opportunities. This year he's continued to improve well. Of course, we have got Mattiello, who is going to be joining us to play left-back, who, well, is hopefully going to push Pendant. But at the same time, the way Pendant's improved, part of me feels like he'll probably be the player who ends up starting come the start of next season in the left-back area. That'll be an interesting battle between these two guys, but the left-back area is an area of concern. You can see I have already started getting involved in the transfer window. I'll go through one player who has already joined, and that is Le Bombe, who we've signed from Marseille. Yes, a 16-year-old. I found him playing in the youth French setup. Some people ask me, you know, Jack, how are you finding your regens? Honestly, you can find some really good players just going through the youth teams like this. You know, you can just sort by age and see who are the young players standing out. So I was looking at how Chevalier was getting on in the under-20s, and I came across this guy, Le Bombe. And, well, you can see we've agreed to sign him from Marseille. My scouts like the look of him. Only concern is his lack of consistency and his competitive streak. But at 16, he's got loads of room to improve. And he's going to be joining us for £1.2 million, which might double to £2.4 million. But as far as I'm concerned, that is a fantastic bit of business for a 16-year-old centre-back as good as this guy. He looks fantastic. I'm really excited by him. I don't know, he might be able to start a few games next year. If not, I might look to loan him out because he already looks like he's in a pretty good shape to play, you know, regular first-team football. But yeah, a really good addition there, actually. A really underrated bit of business. I definitely think this year we're going to be looking at more players like this. You can see there's a few other players that I'm looking at. We've got Ali Uta here, who I found again playing through the Romanian under-20 setup. I was looking at the French under-20s Invitational, which is, you know, a good way to look for players, actually, is just to look at the kind of youth kind of competitions that are going on. So you can see here, I was looking for all the teams. I was kind of looking through Romania's under-20 side and looking through some of their better youngsters, and I came across this guy. He looks really good. 17 years old. He's going to be 18 fairly soon. Professional personality. And as you can see here, injury pronenesses are perhaps a concern, but he's a consistent performer. And I definitely recommend, if you are looking to get players, just looking through the under-20 setups, particularly if your players get called up for tournaments, there's no reason not to scout through, these players and just see what they're all about. And, well, of course, with the new scouting system, if a player does stand out to you, you can obviously pay through your scouting budget to scout a player, even if they're outside of your range of scouting. So I kind of like that addition this year in FM. It kind of opens up the opportunity to scout a few more players. But yeah, so that's what's been going on in terms of a little bit of business I've been doing early on. In terms of, wider plans this year, I think it's really going to be about just generally strengthening the side, just trying to add a few more players here and there. This is what I consider to be our best 11 right now. I kind of feel like Katongo's in a bit of a situation here. You can see his contract is up at the end of next season. If we go to offer him a new contract, he wants £11,000, which isn't a massive sum of money, but we do not have a massive budget. You can see that kind of money would make him the highest earner at the club. And to be honest, I just don't think he's good enough to warrant that kind of pay rise. I think this year is going to be quite an interesting summer in terms of our wage budget really isn't that big at £170,000 a week. We will have to see what we can do with that. And yeah, hopefully we can maybe get a little bit more wage budget, but at the same time I don't want to be paying a load of extra money to some of these players who are good players but aren't great players. Someone like Kitongo, he is going to be an okay Ligue 1 player as it is right now. He's not improved that much as of late since he joined us, really. He's not improved massively. So he's the kind of player who I don't want to give a pay rise to, and if I can't give him the pay rise and he wants to go at the end of the contract on a free, am I better off selling him next summer? Well, not next summer, this summer, before I lose him next summer on a free. That's going to be an interesting battle. Of course, there's players like Gibault and Ogier who are going to be leaving us. They've been useful tutors, definitely had a lasting imprint on our side, but at the same time, they're players who want to play first-team football. They are some of the biggest earners at the club in terms of salary right now, and it's difficult, when two of your 5 highest earners are players who have, 9 league starts between them in a year, to justify offering them new contracts to keep them on for that little bit longer. So I feel like we kind of just have to love and let go, I guess, when it comes to those. You can see in terms of the end of season awards, I missed this before, but Ducasse won Player of the Season, Trincao got Goal of the Season, Ducasse Young Player of the Season and Signing of the Season. I don't feel like that's entirely surprising there. In terms of the overall best 11, you can see how it's emerging here. Ducasse has made it in there. Chevalier is now on the bench. Of course, Chevalier, one of our youth prospects who broke into the first team halfway through this year and has improved quite a lot. You can see we've been training his pace. It's gone from 9.4 and 12.4 to 13.8 and 10.8. If he can improve that a tiny bit more, there's not actually anything to say he couldn't realistically become a box-to-box midfielder. My concern with him always has been his pace. Everything else about him is really, really good. As a player, who's going to be, a centre midfielder just here, there and everywhere. But the way he's improving his speed makes me think maybe he isn't going to be stuck being this deep-line midfielder. Maybe realistically he can have an impact higher up the pitch. So that'll be kind of interesting to see how that develops. Of course, he has been starting a fair few games this year. In Ligue 1, I think he'll continue to start games because he's one of our best players when you look at it here. But it is going to be difficult to fend off interest. We've had a lot of teams really interested in him. I've set the asking price unrealistically high in the hopes that these teams bid and, they don't bid because they know they're not going to meet the asking price we've set. Of course, there is that lingering concern that the chairman steps in and just tries to accept the offer for us, which I desperately hope doesn't happen because he looks so good. We want to keep hold of him. Of course, we've also got Sunday West who's going to be joining us, a really exciting player. He's playing, of course, in the Nigerian national team, the goalkeeper. He's on loan at Enugu Rangers until November of this calendar year, at which point he will be joining us. And, I feel like he might even become a starting goalkeeper ahead of Prevost, depending on how the development goes. You can see when you compare the players, Sunday West perhaps lacking a bit in terms of distribution and aerial ability, and on the physical side certainly, but in terms of shot stopping and communication, the difference between the players really isn't that big. So we might have a little interesting battle for the goalkeeper position this year. Anyway, I think there was a few other bits to look at here. We looked at all of this actually now I think about the best 11, all that jazz. What I'm going to do quickly, guys, is I've got a save game slightly further on in the future because last year there were a load of league awards which I missed out on in the end of season review that I want to cover. I'm going to load up that game. It's only, a few weeks ahead. And, we can take a look at some of the awards that we won and how we shaped up against the rest of the league. Okay guys, so as you can see here, the date is the 13th of June in the top right. We've gone forward. As I said, I had this save game already done, like before I recorded the previous bit. You might have noticed when I was talking about the Leroy clause, I sounded a little bit confused. The reason for that being is, I forgot that I sold the clause between that last save game and this save game you can see here. So if we look at the clauses, the Leroy sell-on clause isn't here anymore. However, in front of you, you can see some video footage of me selling the clause to Liverpool. We got £7.6 million for it, which is a really good sum of money. I was really happy with that, and that goes straight back into the transfer budget for us to reinvest. And whilst maybe the profit sell-on of 50% will be higher than 7 million, in a few years' time, realistically, the essentially doubling our transfer budget is massive for this coming season and is going to help us a lot more immediately. So yeah, as you can see here, obviously it's the 13th of June in this game. Because I sold it so soon after what you just saw, I don't have the news item anymore, so that's why the footage is there to show you what was going on. But anyway, as I mentioned, there's loads of league awards which happen a little bit later on at the end of pre-season. So we'll go through some of these now because we were featured in them. You can see Ducasse picked up the Players' Player of the Season. Not entirely surprising, 39 goals in 34 games, average more than a goal a game, and actually, despite missing 4 league games across the season, he scored more than a goal per game that the club played as a whole. It's a 38-game season. He got more goals than that. He won Star of the Season. Trincao got runner-up in this, which is really, really impressive for him. Obviously, 18 assists, a really good total. Ducasse also won Revelation of the Season. 10 Player of the Matches he, of course, got in 34 games. Prevost won Star Goalkeeper. 15 clean sheets in 37 games. The average rating, not all that impressive. One thing that I found kind of funny here is you can see here we have the Stars team of the season. Despite Ducasse winning everything, and Prevost winning Goalkeeper of the season, Ducasse and Prevost aren't in the team of the year. Yeah, I don't get it either. Football Manager is weird sometimes, but you can see the rest of the players we've featured. It's kind of cool to see our entire back four featured as, the star team of the season. Trincao got most assists with 18 in 36 games, a really good return from him. You can see the next highest was 13. Of course, the amount of goals he was scoring, someone had to get the assists, and it was Trincao. Ducasse got top goal scorer with 39 goals. The next highest was just 17 goals, which does seem fairly low to me. I'm thinking of in the Premier League in real life. I feel like, generally speaking, the top goal scorers usually end up getting in excess of 20. Maybe the goal scoring is just lower in France, I guess, as a whole. Prevost named as goalkeeper of the season. Again, don't know why he didn't get team of the year. You can see that we were in the Ligue 2 Manager of the Year award running, and, we won it. We got a 68% win rate. Good to see us get a nice little managerial award there. And, you can see here in terms of the actual kind of, not star team of the year, but just the team of the year. Again, Ducasse and Prevost not in the team, despite winning the best breakthrough player, best goalkeeper and all that jazz. I don't get it either. Answers on a postcard if you can explain those awards to me. But anyway, that's kind of a little roundup of this season. All in all, obviously, we came into this season with expectations high, and, we were top of the league for a long, long time this year. We had a little bit of a wobble, as you can see in January, but besides that, we steadied the ship. We got a really good run of wins together kind of early on into February onwards, and we were able to run out and win the league fairly comfortably in the end. In terms of the aim next year, I feel like continue to put faith, I guess, in a lot of the younger players we've got here. Looking at the transfer budget that we've got, you'll notice here I'm looking at signing a fair few players. We won't go through all of these now, but the transfer budget is £11 million. Wage budget remaining is £29,000. Lots of players here who I am looking at. You can see we're rejecting bids from Chevalier. We've had offers for Trincao. For some reason, they want to loan him. I don't get it either. We are looking at this guy, Capradossi from Roma, but I know there's a lot of other teams interested in him, so I'm thinking that one of them will probably end up getting him, someone like Huddersfield or Empoli. It's going to be difficult for us to compete against teams who are dominating their league, and particularly someone like Ghent who do get European qualification fairly regularly. We're not going to be able to fight it up against them, I don't think, for this kind of player. So if they don't come in, maybe we have a centre-back there. If they do, we could be in trouble. But there is money to be spent. I don't think we'll end up spending the full 11 million. I think, realistically, we'll probably put some into the wage budget. Of course, the overall balance of the club is in really good shape here. 11.5 million is there. The wage budget obviously still sits at 170,000, but we might look to expand that. Of course, in terms of income, we had that nice little spike just last month from the clause being sold on. So that was great for us. That £7 million really put us into the black in terms of our finances. And of course, with our facilities being improved, It's looking like a really exciting time here at Sochaux, and I'm hoping that next year we can really find our feet in Ligue 1. I'd like to go toe-to-toe with the big boys. You know, we showed against Lyon in the Cup, even against Bordeaux, that we can go toe-to-toe with them, but it's not going to be easy. Let's be realistic here. We are still going to be a small fish in a big pond, trying to, well, fend off some whales in the form of PSG and Monaco, but it should be really interesting to see how we get on. Anyway, guys, that is going to be all from me today. Hopefully you did enjoy today's video. Let me know what you make of our squad. What position would you be signing a player in? As I said, I really want to keep some faith in the players that we've got here. I think we've got a pretty strong lineup. I'd quite like to maybe bolster the defence with 1 or 2 new additions. In terms of our strength, I think strength in depth is pretty strong. I feel like it'd be nice just to add maybe 1 or 2 more players here and there. Just a few players of quality, perhaps, just to really help us going forward into a new league. But anyway, that's all from me. Leave a like if you did enjoy. As I said, let me know where you'd sign players. And other than that, it is me, Jack, and I will talk to you guys in a bit. I'm out.